Hey, what's up guys, my name is Abdul Nafe, and in this course we're going to be learning how to make hyper-realistic car animations inside of Unreal Engine 5. Now in this course we're going to be making two very realistic car animations. One of them is going to be in a road inside a forest, so we're going to be creating a whole forest scene, and we're going to create a road, a sort of a highway on inside a forest, and we're going to be making cinematic renders of the car. And the second scene is going to be inside a garage, in which we're going to be creating a whole garage, the inside part of the garage and the outside part of the garage as well. So we're going to be rendering the car inside and outside of it. So there's a lot to learn in this course. We're going to be covering how to import models in Unreal Engine 5. We're going to be learning how to texture cars. We're going to be learning how to create realistic environments, do realistic lighting using HDRIs or maybe the default lighting setup in Unreal Engine. And yeah, so there's really a lot to cover. Even if you are a beginner or an experienced Unreal Engine artist, I would definitely recommend you to take this course. Now, the good thing about this course is that this course is going to be, it's going to show you the raw process of me as an artist when I'm like creating art. So we're going to be making all the creative decisions. We're going to be solving all the problems together. And yeah, just generally it's going to be a good experience for you to like learn an actual workflow for a real 3D artist, right? So I would really recommend you to take this course if you want to take your Unreal Engine skills to the next level. One thing which I am going to mention is that you do need to have like very basic experience with Unreal Engine 5, and some experience with Blender 3D and Premiere Pro is going to be useful because we are going to use the basics of those softwares as well. But yeah, apart from that, that's pretty much it. I'm really excited for this course and I hope you are too. And yeah, I'll see you in the course. Alright guys, so let's go ahead and get started with the first render, which is right here. You can see this Unreal Engine project. This is the actual project in which I made this render. So this is obviously path tracing. If you want to do ray tracing, you can see that this is how it looks in ray tracing. Still looks pretty good. We can make some tweaks to make it look better in ray tracing, but I was intending to render this in path tracing only. That's why I didn't really, bother with ray tracing as much. But I will show you some tips and tricks to make ray tracing look better than this right here. But obviously the difference between path tracing and ray tracing is quite a lot. Path tracing obviously looks better. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started with this project. So I'm just going to be using this Unreal Engine project that I have opened here. You can obviously go ahead and create a new project if you want, or you can use a previous existing project and you can just create a new level in that and just keep working in that. That's what I usually like to do. I usually like to create very less projects, and then in those projects I basically like create new levels and make new projects in those new levels. So let's go ahead and create a new level. So I'm just going to go to file firstly, file. I don't think you can see that because of my recording setup. It's like above the recording bounds, but you can just see file right here and just click new level. I'm pretty sure you can see that. And just click empty level because we're going to be starting from scratch. We're going to be doing everything from scratch. And even if you are an Unreal Engine beginner, you don't know anything about Unreal Engine 5, just like the very basics, that should be more than enough for this tutorial because it's actually pretty easy and pretty straightforward. I'll show you everything that there is to learn. All right, so with that being done, what we can do is the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a basic lighting setup. But before that, we can go ahead and create a basic landscape. So I'm just going to click this selection mode right here, go to landscape, and then just click create right here and just go back to selection mode because we're not going to be doing any sculpting. We just need a basic landscape like that, right? So after this, we can continue to work on the lighting. So I'm just going to go to window up here. Again, you cannot see that, but I'm pretty sure you know where window is. It's basically above this point right here in Unreal Engine, and just click environment light mixer. So once you click that, you're going to have these 5 options. Just click all of them, and because that's all we're going to need for a lighting setup. It's as simple as that. We are going to be adding an HDRI though, but that's going to be later on, not right now. So just make sure if you go to your skylight, make sure your real-time capture is turned on, because if it is not, then it's not going to look good. And yeah, the shadows are going to be weird. So just make sure that is turned on, right? Now what we can do is we can actually go ahead and just import the car first. And before that, just save your project. Just click Control S on your keyboard and you can just go ahead and save this wherever you want. I'm just gonna do car underscore forest underscore course. Cool. So that's gonna be our level. And now we can just go ahead and import the car which we're gonna be working on, right? And just be sure to save everything before that. So for the car, we can just go to the internet, and we have multiple options to basically get a car. What you can do is you can just search for car 3D model on the internet. You can go to Sketchfab, and you can get a lot of different 3D models of cars here. Alternatively, what you can do is if you are familiar with Blender, which I am assuming that you know at least one 3D software. If that software is Blender, then I'm just going to open Blender just to show you. And if you know about Blender Kit, which I'm assuming you already know about Blender Kit, if you know about Blender, it's basically an add-on. You can just search for it on the internet. Blender Kit, and it's a free add-on which you can use to get free car models or free any sort of models basically. But in this situation, we are going to be using it to get car models. So you can just search car here, and you're going to see that if I go and set it to free first, you're going to see that we have a lot of car models here as well. Now, since this is not a Blender tutorial, I'm not going to go into details on how you can install this add-on. I have plenty of other Blender courses which go over this, so you can check those out if you want. But yeah, you have a lot of good options here as well. And I would actually recommend you to like get one of these cars, because these cars, you know that they're actually like good models, and the texturing and the meshes and everything is all going to be perfectly fine. But as opposed to like downloading something from the internet, you don't really know what you're like, working with and all that stuff. So you can get a good model or you can get a bad model, you don't really know. You have to like test everything out. So, but I'm just going to be downloading something from the internet just to show you how the process works. Because if you get something from Blender Kit, it's like pretty straightforward. So I'm just going to go to Sketchfab, and in fact, I'm just going to be searching for a car here. Make sure you click downloadable and make sure the category is cars and vehicles. So now you're going to see that a lot of these cars are actually stylized cars, which is not something I want. I want a more realistic car model. And I'm actually not going to be doing the same Ferrari that I did in in the preview of this course, basically, the actual scene which I created before. So instead of that, we can go with the Porsche 911. This is a pretty good car, to be honest. Also, if any model that you want to download has this $sign right here, that means it is not free. You have to pay for that. And if it has this what do you call it, this download sign right here, that means it is free. So you can just go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go to the right side, and I'm going to sort this by most liked or most viewed, doesn't really matter. But these are going to be the best models on the website. And so it's always good to like, sort by the most liked. That's what I do, at least. I mean, it's really hard to decide because there's like so many cars, so many options. But actually what I'll do is I'll just probably cut this part, and I'll just like see you guys when I have decided what model that I'm going to get. And you guys can also just feel free to like choose any 3D model that you want. And once you have decided what model you want to get, then we can just move forward with this course. All right, guys, so I ended up going with this model right here. It's a Lamborghini Huracan. And if you want this exact model, what you can do is you can just search for Huracan Black Panther on Sketchfab. And it's by, yeah, it's this model right here. And it's by this person right here, STC Performance. They make really good models, by the way. You can check their whole sort of page out, and you can see that they basically make like custom cars, like custom supercars. They have a lot of Lamborghinis and a lot of like really good cars. So they have a total of 125 models, which is like insane if you ask me. But yeah, you can use one of these other models, but obviously I'll be sure to like give them credit, and because it's them who created the actual model and did all the hard work. But yeah, I love these guys. So yeah, also be sure to follow them on Sketchfab as well. So you can just download this 3D model right here. Click download 3D model, and you can go with like any of these except for USDZ, because Blender cannot open USDZ by default. And if you're wondering why we're going to be opening this in Blender first, that's what I usually like to do, just to make sure all the normals and everything is just fine. And yeah, just like to sort of make sure everything in the model is working fine before sort of exporting it again and importing it inside of Unreal Engine 5. It's just a habit that I have. You can obviously like get away with that as well. You can like skip this part and import it directly inside of Unreal Engine 5. But what I've noticed is oftentimes these models, they have I don't think SDC performance models have this problem, but like generally from Sketchfab, a lot of models have like incorrect normals. So I just like to like, import them in Blender and just make sure that they're fine first. So if I see FBX or .blend format, then I'm definitely getting that. Otherwise, my next go-to option would be GITF. So I'm just going to do that and just wait for it to download. I already did download it, so I'm just going to do it again. Just open the zip file and, oops, my bad. And just open the source folder. So they also come with textures, which you can use if you want. I personally, let me see. Yeah, I'm personally not going to use these textures. Yeah, I don't think I need to use these textures, but you can if you want to inside Unreal Engine. But all I care about right now is the FBX model. So I'm just gonna essentially copy that, basically drag that and drop it into desktop. I already do have it, so, but I'm just gonna replace it. And I was just testing this model out before, sort of like recording, just because I want to make sure everything works fine, you know. So I'm just gonna go ahead and open Blender now. So I am assuming that you know like the very basics of Blender at least. Um, so you can just go to File, Import, and then FBX, right? And after that, you can go to wherever you had that model saved and just click the model right here, import FBX, and it should take a minute, but it should eventually import. Perfect. So now you can see that our model is perfectly imported. One problem that I'm noticing right away is the fact that these tires are rotated. So I want to make sure that the tires are facing straight, just in case we want to make like an animation moving forward or anything like that. So yeah, but the problem right now is that if I rotate both of them, you're going to see, if I go to the top view and rotate both of them, you're going to see that they're actually not going to rotate properly, right? So I'm just going to undo that. And the way we can do this, the way we can go about this is basically by selecting the tires and moving them just to make sure everything is just one object, right? I want to make sure that the rims or anything, the brake disc or anything like that is not a separate object. If that is the case, what you can do is you can just select the model basically, press tab to go into edit mode, press alt and Z to go into basically X-ray mode. Alternatively, what you can do is you can press this button right here to go into edit mode. And then you can select one of the tires, right? Just select one of the tires and just press P on your keyboard, which is going to bring up a menu, which is going to say separate. And so we're going to separate this selection, right? So once you do that and you press tab to go out of edit mode, you're going to see that now you can also press alt Z, by the way, just to go out of X-ray mode. And now you're going to see that you have two objects. One of them is going to be this object separated, and the other object is going to be that tire, right? So we just separated both of the tires. Now we can just go ahead and go into X-ray mode again and just rotate them properly. Also, one problem which you're going to be noticing is that if I rotate them now, you're going to see that the center point or the pivot of the rotation is actually set to this point right here. But I want it to be the center of the tire, right? So in order to fix that, it's a pretty simple fix. You just go to Object, you go to Set Origin, and you just do Origin to Geometry. And so it's essentially going to bring it in the center of the geometry. So we can go ahead and rotate this, and yeah, and we can go to the back view just to make sure that both tires are the front and the back wheels are actually aligned. So just move them in the x-axis like that, and obviously they don't need to be like perfectly aligned, but they should be roughly aligned. Actually, I want to move this a little inside, just a tad bit, because I think that looks better. And so now after this one is done, we can just move on to the second tire. Just go to the top view, go to Object, Set Origin, Origin to Geometry, and then rotate it like that. Just make sure both of them just eyeball both of them to make sure they both look fine, which they do. Alright, so the wheels are basically done. What we can do next is we can just click this button right here, this drop down menu right here, and click face orientation to make sure all the normals are correct, which some of them are not, unfortunately. So if you were to import the model like this in Unreal Engine 5, it would have been very weird, and the tires would have looked very bad, right? So what we're going to be doing to fix this is actually, it's a pretty simple fix. Just select the tire, press tab to go into edit mode, press A to select everything, and basically just go to mesh, normals, and then just do recalculate outside. Now if I press tab to go out of edit mode, you're going to see that everything is blue inside there. Okay, select this wheel, tab A, mesh, normals, and then recalculate outside. Tab out of edit mode, and then just do the same with the back wheels as well. Tab A, mesh, normals, and then recalculate outside. Perfect. All that is basically done. I think these parts are inside anyway, so they should be fine, hopefully. Let's go to the back. So any part which is like actually inside the car, that's perfectly fine. It can be it can be red, it's totally fine. But if it's something which is like sort of, you know, just on the outside part of the car, then that is a problem. Okay, so I think we're basically good to go. One other thing that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to go to the side view and press A to select everything, the whole car, and just press G and Z to just move it up and set it on basically the horizontal plane, right? Because I think that's just gonna make sure that if we scale it, if we scale it in Unreal Engine 5, it's just gonna scale from the bottom, right? And so next up, we can just go ahead and finally go to File, Export, and then export as FBX. Go to Desktop. I'm just gonna call this Lambo Hurricane. Oops, my bad. I don't know why it got deleted. Hurricane. I hope I'm spelling that right. Actually, no. It's just one R. I don't know. Two R's sound cool, honestly. And I have this folder with like all my cars, all the car models that I've downloaded. I like the way I said all my cars. It's like I own these cars. But anyway, so we can just go back to Unreal Engine 5. Also, just in case you don't know how to create a new project, let me just show you that workflow. It's actually pretty simple. So once you open Unreal Engine 5, I just opened a new instance of Unreal Engine. But once you open Unreal Engine 5, you can just go to Games and open a blank project. That's what I usually do, because we don't really need any of these presets or like anything from here. You could, if you want a photo studio for the car, you could use this preset, but I've never really tried it because I've never really needed to, because I create all my studios from scratch. Because I mean, that's the whole point. So yeah, I usually like to go with blank and make sure to set it to blueprint. Quality preset should be maximum. Target platform, desktop is fine. And if you have an NVIDIA RTX graphic card, then be sure to turn ray tracing on. Otherwise, you can just leave it off. Ray tracing is going to give you better results, but the difference is not that huge. So if you can't turn it on, it's perfectly fine as well. And then just name your project whatever, set the project location to whatever, and then just create the project. I'm not going to do that because I already have this project opened. But yeah, so once you have a project opened, what you can do is you can just right click the content folder, click new folder, and just call this whatever. I'm just going to call it Lambo Hurricane. Be sure to create a new folder for your car, because otherwise, because your car is going to have a lot of like meshes, a lot of materials, and you want that to be like very organized, you know? You don't want that to be like just randomly in anywhere in your project. So what I can do now is I can go to my file explorer and just browse over to where I had the car saved, the model that we just exported from Blender. So it's this model right here. What you can do is you can just drag this model inside the content browser right here. And I'm just going to minimize this. And so these options, these FBX import options, make sure that they are set to the default. We don't need to change anything. Just click import all and we should be good to go. Now it is going to take a minute to import, but I'll see you when it's done. All right, so once the import has been completed, you're going to see these, you're going to see some errors right here. We can just safely ignore all of them. And now you're going to see in our folder, we have a bunch of materials and a bunch of meshes as well, right? So to import the car into our scene, what we're going to be doing is that we're going to select the first mesh and shift select the last mesh. Meshes are all these objects, and obviously the materials are these spheres right here. So ignore the spheres, just import all the meshes like that into our scene. Perfect. So now you're going to see that our car has been imported correctly, right? And you can see that the tires look pretty good. The tires look correct because we obviously, you know, fixed our normals. So now we can, we basically have two options. Either we can sort of start creating our scene first and then texture the car. But what I usually like to do is I like to just be done with the texturing before anything else. Then we can create our scene and then we can sort of tweak our lighting, add the HDRI, and we can sort of move forward from there, right? So let's begin with the texturing of this car. So for the texturing of the car, we're going to be using an add-on basically, or like a texture pack, you can call it, which is available on the marketplace, on the Unreal Engine marketplace. So we can just search for Epic Games Launcher. Just go inside the launcher, and if you're in Unreal Engine, you can go to Marketplace, and it's actually made by Unreal Engine themselves. It's called Automotive Materials. Automotive Materials. If you just search for that, you're gonna see this thing right here, the first thing right here, Automotive Materials. This is a texture pack that we're gonna be using. So we can just click Add to Project. And if you see this problem right here, no compatible user projects found, what you can do is you can just click Show All Projects, select whichever project that you want to add it to, and then it's still gonna, the Add to Project button is still gonna be grayed out. So you can just select the highest version here. So the highest compatible version is 5.1, but then you can just Add to Project. I'm not gonna do that because I already do have this in my scene. If I can show you right here. So this folder right here is the Automotive Materials. I already do have it, but so once you add it to project, you are gonna essentially just see this folder right here. Okay, you can just open the folder, and inside this you're gonna see this materials folder right here. You can open that again to basically reveal the exterior folder and the interior folder, and you can sort of use these to essentially find materials for your car. So let's start with the car paint. So for the car paint, you have a lot of these options, and all of these materials are fully customizable, which I'm going to show you how to do that in just a second. But for example, you want like a yellow car, right? So we can just apply the material, and applying the material is as simple as just dragging and dropping. It's literally that simple. And so if you're unsure of which material to apply where, what you can do is you can just simply go back to the car model page on Sketchfab, and then you can sort of just see which material goes where. So this part should be carbon fiber. However, we applied the car paint to this, which is looking weird. So we can just go down to carbon fiber and apply this material right here. So applying materials is as simple as that. You can see that our car is already looking pretty realistic. It's looking pretty decent. And these materials are actually like really good for, this purpose. So this part is actually glass. So we're going to apply glass here. So you can just go to glass and then apply glass. And if your reflections, by the way, are not as good as mine, your reflections are actually going to be like this. If your reflections are like this and you want to make them look better, what you can do is you can just simply go to settings. You can go to engine scalability settings and make sure to set them to cinematic, and you're going to see instantly your reflections are just going to become better. Now this obviously will come with a performance cost. It's a slight performance cost, though it's not a lot, but you can just apply glass materials here as well. I would definitely recommend you to turn the quality to cinematic, at least before you're rendering. While you're editing, it doesn't really matter, but when you're rendering, you should. Okay, so that is done. Let's apply material here. Let's see which material you should be applying. So it should be something like a black metal. One other thing that you can also do is you can just search for Lamborghini. Basically just the car model that you're working with. Just like look at actual pictures of that car, and have some references, so you can sort of use those to basically just get inspiration and get to know which material you should apply where. So I'm just going to go to the metal folder, and you can apply a black metal to this. Perfect. And next up we have, also by the way, the logo is missing, so we are going to have to add that for sure. So we're going to go ahead and do that in just a bit. And so the side mirrors are also the same color as the car, so I'm just going to apply the same material. Perfect. And maybe so what about this thing right here? So let's actually look at a picture which shows the car from the back. Just open this image in new tab, and so we can sort of zoom in and see. Now this part, I think it's probably like a black metal or a hard plastic. I don't think it would be plastic though. I think it has to be metal, or maybe even carbon fiber. Let's try carbon fiber. Actually, no, it's inside there. So we're gonna have to go inside here and then apply the material like that. Actually, carbon fiber doesn't look that good. I think it's just like a metal. Probably something like this. Yeah, I think that looks pretty decent. Perfect. And the interior, I'm just gonna apply like a black leather sort of material to this. And I don't know why, for some reason, the driver's seat is just not visible, which is a weird thing. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but it's kind of weird. I think it probably has to do something with the normals, so we can probably just go back to Blender and just make sure, see how the problem was caused. Oh, actually, there is no driver's seat for some reason in this model, which is kind of weird, but it's okay. It doesn't really matter because we're not going to be able to see it from outside anyway. But we can probably go to interior and then just go to leather. Just look for a dark leather material and just apply it to the whole car. It doesn't matter which material you apply it to, because we just want like the interior of the car to like look dark from outside. We obviously don't need it to be like super accurate or anything. So that's perfectly fine. Let's apply a mirror material to this side mirror. So I'm just going to go to metal again. Actually, go to exterior and then the metal folder in the exterior folder. And you're going to see this mirror material at the end. Apply that. Now the reflections are obviously not going to be super accurate in ray tracing mode, but if you switch to, let's say, path tracing mode, you're going to see that everything is going to become super accurate. So that's just a choice that you have to make. And yeah, so go back to lit mode. And now let's start working on the tires. So for the tires, for the rims, I'm going to again use metal, use some sort of metal, probably like this metal right here. And actually, and so this is going to be a lighter metal, and let's do a darker metal on this part. We can probably do something like that. But then we also need to, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make this metal a little darker. The way I do that, the way I customize any of these materials is by opening them. And you're going to see inside here, we have this option called use tint. If it's not checked already, you can just check it. And the tint is set to gray, but I can always make it darker to make the material darker. Or I can make it lighter to make it lighter, you know? As simple as that. So I can just set it to something like that. And let's see if it applied the material to other tires as well. It did not. And so we're going to have to do that separately for all the wheels. So close this, and this goes here. This other material goes here. Let's do the same for all 4 sides. Actually, this applied it to here as well. And so the back tires are linked. Oops, my bad. It was this one for this and this one for that. So the back tires are linked, but the front tires are not for some reason. So yeah. And for the disc, we can probably do something like that. Or maybe something like that. I think that should be fine. Maybe I think it's too light. We can probably do something darker like that. I think that should be good. Same material to this as well. And this this, what do you call it, the caliper, I want that to be the same color as the car paint. So go back. Actually, let me do the calipers first. Then we can do the brake disc. I think it was this one, right? Yep. And this is the last wheel material. Perfect. So now what we can do is we can just apply material, a rubber material to the tire as well, to the rubber part of the tire. So I'm just going to go to rubber, and we can try all of these. Some of them are going to have treads, some of them are not going to have any like treads or anything like that. So I think I'm probably going to go with this one. However, I am going to make some changes to this, because right now you can see that there's like something written here, but it's like not correct. So we can try to make it correct. If it doesn't work, we'll see what to do. But so I'm just gonna reduce the size of this like that. And so we can go to UVs. And so here we can sort of using the UV tiling, we can sort of change the position of this and put the position and the scale of this this texture. So we can first try changing the scale, the position. If that doesn't work, we can probably change the scale. I think something like that should be good, because now we can't really see the text, which from far away is going to look just fine. Because remember, we're not trying to do a very detailed render of this. We're just trying to do a render from far away. So that's pretty good. Otherwise, obviously you would want to have a model which has like actual like geometry treads, which like a lot of models have those, but that's just a criteria that you're gonna have to look for if you're sort of trying to make that type of render. But yeah, before doing anything else, make sure to save all, and just click the save all button, and also make sure to press Ctrl S as well, and just so you don't lose any sort of progress. Let's work on the front lights now. So for the front lights, if I just go to the internet and just look at a picture of a Lamborghini, you can see that the lights are, if I just open this in a new tab, I can show you that the lights are like, these are the lights, and this part, the other parts are, I think, a shiny metal sort of thing, which sort of reflects light. So we can go inside the camera a little bit just so that we can penetrate through the glass which is above it. And we can go to metal, apply a metal material right there to the other part, just like that. And so for the light part, we can also go ahead and go to the lights folder and apply this here. And again, this part should also be metal, so I'm just gonna metal here. And I think it looks pretty decent. However, it does look a little weird just because maybe because the metal is not that good. See the metal. I think this metal looks a lot better. Yeah. What about something even darker? How about we do this? Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. I'm gonna go with that, yeah. Because the lights look a lot more defined now. You can obviously control the power of the lights by just double clicking the material, and then you can just increase the facing intensity or the edge intensity. I'm just gonna set it to default for now. Actually, I'm gonna increase it to something like 5, but not anything more, just because I wanna sort of make the scene first, and then I wanna tweak the lights afterwards, because that's just something I wanna do after that. And so for the backlights, what we can do is we can just apply a red lamp material to this, or maybe even a red cover. I think red lamp would look fine. Yep, that looks pretty good. And just want to see how these lights look. So they're okay. So this is not supposed to be on all the time. So I'm just gonna do a cover for this. How about I do this cover? A cover for this as well, but I'm just gonna do this cover. Or I think that's fine for now. We can obviously make tweaks later on, but I think for now that should be good enough. And I don't know why the bumper is carbon fiber for some reason, which it's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be a dark, I think, plastic, rough plastic. I think something like that should be good. And so after this, we can go ahead and add a metal texture to the exhausts. Maybe a darker one, probably something like that. Yep, that looks pretty good. And I think we're pretty much done with the texturing of the car. Just some minor tweaks here and there, but I think for the most part we're done. And I'll just apply a glass material to this part as well, just because if you want to add like your name or anything like that there, you can do that, but I'm just not going to do that. And next up, we're going to be adding a Lamborghini logo right here. So let's do that. And also we can go ahead and add a number plate, a license plate there as well at the back. I don't think there's any place to add it on the front, but we can add the logo first and then add the license plate at the back. All right, so first let's go ahead and add the logo in the front. So for that, we're just going to be going to the internet and we can just search for Lamborghini logo PNG. And make sure you download something with a transparent background, because obviously in Unreal Engine, if you add something with a transparent background, what it's going to do is that it's going to basically, if I add a cube, for example, if I go ahead and add a cube and I add a transparent material to this, basically the parts which are transparent in the actual texture, those parts of the cube are going to be invisible, right? So that's exactly what we want. But we don't actually want a cube, we want a plane. So we can just go ahead and add a plane like that, and I'm just going to bring it here, something like that. Make sure to like not deform it, because you can see that our logo essentially is not perfectly square. It is, if you can find something which is perfectly square, then that's obviously better. So let's see if this is, let's open this tab, and yeah, if you can get this, that would be better, because this is going to be there's going to be a square image, which is going to be easier to sort of tile. And let's see, is it downloading? It's about to download. But yeah, so now it's downloaded. So we can just go ahead and drag this inside of Unreal Engine. Just drop it anywhere you want. I'm just going to drop it right there. And now it's as simple as just dragging the texture on top of, what do you call it? The plane, right? And now you can see that the logo has been imported, right? So now what you can do is you can just bring it down and obviously scale it down and all that stuff. And just like basically position it such that it just looks good. I'm going to have to turn off all kinds of snappings because we want to be really precise with this. So we'll just bring it down like that. and further. I'm gonna have to scale it down even more, just a tad bit. Something like that might be good. Rotate it. I think 33 degrees should be fine. Move it up. You can also change the units to basically, you can change the axes to the object axes. So it's gonna basically, you can move the object along its own axis. So that would make it a little easier for you. I need to rotate it a little more. Just a tad bit like that. Maybe even scale it down a little more. You have to be really precise with this. Maybe even scale it up a little bit like that. Just a tad bit, just so that it just fits. Yeah, so that just fits in perfectly, which I think it does. And yeah, perfect. So our logo is basically in place. Let's go to the back. Let's see if there's any logo there as well. Okay, so there's this Lamborghini texture, which we're gonna apply a metal material to. Let's apply a shiny, glossy metal material to this. Actually, that doesn't look good. Yeah, I think that's better. Okay. And let's add a license plate now. So for the license plate, it's actually pretty simple. Go back to the internet and just search for license plate creator. You can just look for a license plate creator. You can either you can just download a pre-made license plate, or you can like create your own license plate. I always use this Rockstar Games tool. It's basically made for GTA, but what do you call it? It's actually like you can create license plates with it. So just click try out, and you can just write whatever you want. I'm just gonna write my name, Alpha 3D. That's my Instagram handle, by the way, if you want to follow me. I post all my new artwork there. And you can just select any sort of design that you want. I'm just gonna go with, let me go with this actually this time. So once you have that, you can make sure you're on 3D, because if you're on 2D, it's not going to look that realistic. But if you're on 3D, that's perfectly fine. You can just zoom. Actually, it's not zooming in that. So what we can just do is we can simply just click print screen on our keyboard, or we can just go to search for the snipping tool, and then we can just snip this. Make sure you don't snip the edges. Like make sure you don't get any of the background in it. Make sure all of it is just number plate. So that's perfectly fine. Right click this, save as. We're going to save this on desktop, call it license plate. Perfect. So then we can go back to Unreal Engine. Actually, let me go to desktop and minimize all of this stuff. Just drag the license plate inside of Unreal Engine and just drop it. I'm just going to drop it in the content folder, the main content folder. Now what we can do is we can just simply import a shape, which is going to be a cube. And it's pretty straightforward, to be honest. Like even if you know the basics of Unreal Engine, you should be comfortable with doing all this stuff. And if you're not, by the way, you can check out my what do you call it? My Unreal Engine beginners course. I go over all the basics of Unreal Engine in that. So you can check that out if you want to work on your basics. Now what we can just do, we can just drag this on there, and you're going to see that the aspect ratio doesn't look correct now. So we can just scale it down to the point that the aspect ratio looks fine. You can go back and just eyeball it to see if it's similar to that. I think something like that. I think something like that is fine. Yeah. And scale it further, something like that. Actually, let's place it on the correct position first. Then we can sort of keep scaling it. And obviously none of this is supposed to be like, none of this is intended to be very detailed. Obviously you can see the texture on the sides, it looks a little weird, but our goal is to just make something which just looks good with the least amount of effort. Because obviously this render is going to be from like pretty far away. So we're not going to be like going up and like seeing every single detail. But yeah. I think that's a very important part of animation and like just creating things in general. Like just deciding what to sort of put your time on. and what to avoid to save time, because obviously there's a million things that you could be working on and you could be trying to improve, but um it's always good to have like priorities, like what sort of stuff you're trying to work on, what sort of stuff you're trying to just ignore. And I think we are good to go with the license plate as well. It was as simple as just creating a license plate and just placing it there. Perfect. So now what we can do is let me just close all this stuff. And I think our car is ready. Now we can move on to the next step, which is going to be creating the atmosphere.